I never thought a single photograph could destroy everything I thought I knew about trust, about love, and about the person I believed myself to be. My name is Sarah, and what I'm about to tell you happened just 6 months ago, but it feels like a lifetime. I'm sharing this story because I know there are other women out there who might be going through something similar. And maybe, just maybe, my experience can help someone avoid the nightmare I lived through. It started on a Tuesday morning in March. I remember the exact date because it was the day that changed everything. I was 24 years old, working as a marketing coordinator at a small tech company in Portland, living my seemingly ordinary life. I had been crushing on this guy, Derek, for almost 8 months. We worked in the same building, but for different companies, and every morning I would see him in the elevator or grabbing coffee from the little cafe on the ground floor. Derek was the kind of guy who seemed to have stepped out of a magazine. Tall with these piercing green eyes and a smile that could make you forget your own name. He had this way of making conversation feel effortless, like you were the only person in the world when he spoke to you. I had built up this entire fantasy in my head about what it would be like if we were together, imagining weekend trips and cozy dinners and all those small moments that make up a relationship. The thing is, Derek and I had been flirting for months. Not obvious flirting, but those subtle exchanges that make your heart race. He would hold the elevator door for me a little longer than necessary, always with that devastating smile. He remembered my coffee order after hearing it just once. When we passed each other in the lobby, there was this electric tension that I was sure he felt too. That Tuesday morning, he approached me while I was waiting for my usual latte. My heart immediately started pounding the way it always did when he was near. He looked nervous, which was unusual for someone who always seemed so confident and composed. "Hey, Sarah," he said, running his hand through his perfectly tousled hair. "I've been wanting to ask you something for a while now, and I hope this doesn't sound too forward." I felt my cheeks flush with excitement. This was it. This was the moment I had been dreaming about for months. He was finally going to ask me out. All those stolen glances, all those conversations that felt charged with possibility were leading to this. "What is it?" I managed to say, trying to keep my voice steady even though my pulse was racing. He shifted his weight from one foot to the other, looking almost shy. "I'm working on this personal photography project, and I was wondering if you'd be interested in modeling for me. Nothing professional or anything, just some artistic portraits. You have such beautiful features, and I think you photograph amazingly." My heart soared. He thought I was beautiful. He wanted to photograph me. In my mind, this was romantic and artistic and perfectly in line with the sophisticated relationship I'd imagined we would have. I pictured us in some beautiful outdoor location, him behind the camera capturing my essence, the intimacy of the moment bringing us closer together. "I'd love to," I said without hesitation. "That sounds really exciting." His face lit up with genuine enthusiasm. "Really? That's fantastic. I was thinking we could do it this Saturday if you're free. Maybe we could start at my apartment and then head to a few outdoor locations I have in mind." The fact that he wanted to start at his apartment made my stomach flutter with nervous excitement. This felt like more than just a photo session. This felt like the beginning of something real between us. "That sounds perfect," I told him. "What should I bring?" "Just yourself," he said with that smile that made my knees weak. "Maybe a few different outfits, if you want variety. Nothing fancy, just whatever makes you feel confident and beautiful." We exchanged phone numbers, and he texted me his address, along with a message that said he was looking forward to Saturday. I spent the rest of the week in a state of excited anticipation. I told my best friend Emma about it, and she was just as thrilled as I was. "This is it, Sarah," she said during our Thursday night phone call. "This is how your love story begins. He's clearly been looking for an excuse to spend time with you, and now he has the perfect one." I bought a new outfit specifically for the photo session, a flowing sundress that I thought would photograph beautifully and make me look effortlessly elegant. I practiced different poses in front of my bedroom mirror, imagining how the photos would turn out, and how Derek would look at me with admiration and growing affection. Saturday arrived, and I spent extra time getting ready. I did my makeup carefully, but naturally, wanting to look like the best version of myself without appearing overdone. I chose my outfits thoughtfully, packing a small bag with 3 different looks that I thought would create beautiful, artistic images. When I arrived at Derek's apartment, I was impressed by how sophisticated and tasteful everything was. He had clearly put thought into creating an aesthetic environment, with interesting artwork on the walls and beautiful natural light streaming through large windows. He offered me coffee and made small talk that felt comfortable and intimate. "I really appreciate you doing this," he said as he set up his camera equipment. "I've been wanting to work on more portrait photography, and I couldn't think of anyone I'd rather photograph than you." The way he said it made me feel special, chosen. Like, out of all the women he knew, I was the one he wanted to capture through his artistic lens. We started with some shots by the windows, with the soft morning light creating what I imagined would be beautiful, dreamy images. Derek was encouraging and professional, giving me gentle direction about how to position myself and where to look. He made me laugh, which relaxed me and made the whole experience feel natural and enjoyable. After about an hour, he suggested we move to one of the outdoor locations he had mentioned. We drove to a beautiful park with a small lake and lots of trees. The setting was absolutely perfect, romantic and scenic, in a way that felt like something out of a movie. Derek continued photographing me in various poses and locations throughout the park. I felt beautiful and confident, completely trusting in his artistic vision and enjoying every moment of what felt like an intimate, creative collaboration. "You're a natural," he told me as we wrapped up at the park. "These are going to be incredible. You should really consider doing more modeling." His compliments made me feel like I was glowing from the inside. We grabbed lunch together afterward, and the conversation flowed easily between us. He told me about his passion for photography, about places he wanted to travel, about his dreams and ambitions. I shared my own hopes and goals, feeling like we were connecting on a deeper level than we ever had before. When he dropped me off at my apartment that afternoon, he thanked me again for modeling for him and said he would send me the photos once he had edited them. There was a moment when we were saying goodbye that felt charged with possibility, like he might kiss me or ask me out on a real date. "I'll text you soon," he said with that smile that always made my heart skip. I floated into my apartment feeling like I was living in a dream. The entire day had been perfect, exactly what I had hoped for and more. I called Emma immediately to tell her every detail, from the beautiful lighting in his apartment to the romantic setting of the park to the way he had looked at me like I was the most beautiful woman in the world. "He's definitely going to ask. You out soon," Emma said confidently. This is obviously his way of creating a romantic situation where you could spend time together and get to know each other better. One agreed completely. Everything about the day had felt intentional and meaningful, like Derek had orchestrated this photo session as a way to transition our relationship from casual, flirting to something real and substantial. For the next few days, I checked my phone constantly, waiting for Derek to text me with the photos or to ask me out. Every time I saw him in the elevator or the coffee shop, he would smile and wave, but he seemed busy and distracted. I told myself he was probably taking his time editing the photos to make them perfect before sharing them with me. A week passed, then 2 weeks. I started to worry that maybe I had misread the situation, that maybe he was just being friendly and professional and I projected romantic feelings onto the experience. But then on a Thursday evening, my phone buzzed with a text from Derek. "Hey." Beautiful, the photos turned out amazing. "Can't wait for you to see them." My heart leaped with excitement and relief. He had called me beautiful again, and he was finally ready to share the results of our photo session. I immediately texted back telling him how excited I was to see them. "I'll send them tomorrow," he replied. "They're really special." That night, I barely slept, imagining how beautiful the photos would be and wondering if seeing them would finally give Derek the push he needed to ask me out properly. I had visions of him telling me that photographing me had made him realize how much he cared about me. That spending that day together had shown him we were meant to be more than just friends. Friday evening came, and Derek texted me saying he would email me a link to view the photos. I was at home having just finished dinner when his email arrived. My hands were actually shaking with excitement as I clicked on the link he had sent. The page loaded and I saw a beautiful header with an elegant font that read Sarah's portfolio. My heart swelled with pride and anticipation as I scrolled down to see the first image, and that's when my world collapsed. The first photo that loaded was one of me by the windows in his apartment, but it wasn't the tasteful, artistic portrait I'd expected. My dress had been digitally altered to appear completely transparent. My body was exposed in ways that made me feel sick to my stomach. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't process what I was seeing. I scrolled down in horror, and every single photo had been manipulated in the same way. The beautiful, innocent images from the park, the confident poses by the lake, all of them had been transformed into something vulgar and violating. My face was clearly visible in every image, but my body had been exposed and altered in ways that made me feel like I might vomit. But that wasn't even the worst part. At the bottom of the page, I saw a counter showing how many people had viewed the gallery. The number was in the thousands. Thousands of strangers had seen these manipulated images of me. Below that, there was a comment section where people had left disgusting remarks about my body and what they wanted to do to me. I slammed my laptop shut and ran to the bathroom, where I actually did get sick. My whole body was shaking with a combination of rage, humiliation, and disbelief. How could Derek have done this to me? How could someone I trusted, someone I had feelings for, violate me in such a complete and devastating way? I grabbed my phone with trembling hands and called Derek immediately. When he answered, his voice sounded casual and cheerful. "Hey Sarah, did you get a chance to look at the photos?" "What have you done?" I whispered, barely able to get the words out. "What do you mean?" He asked, but I could hear something in his voice that suggested he knew exactly what I meant. "You know what you did," I said, my voice getting stronger as my shock transformed into fury. "You manipulated those photos. You violated me. And you put them online for everyone to see." There was a long pause before he spoke again. "Oh, you saw those? Look, I thought you might appreciate the artistic interpretation." "They're really beautiful images. Artistic interpretation?" I screamed into the phone. "You digitally removed my clothing without my consent and posted the images online for thousands of people to see. That's not art. That's assault." "You're being dramatic," he said dismissively. "They're not even real photos of your body. It's just digital manipulation. No one actually saw you naked." The casualness in his voice, the complete lack of remorse or understanding of what he had done to me, made me feel like I might lose my mind. "Take them down immediately," I demanded. "I can't do that," he said. "They're already out there. Once something's on the internet, it's pretty much permanent." The line went dead. He had hung up on me. I spent that entire night trying to figure out what to do. I researched laws about image manipulation and revenge activities, trying to understand what legal recourse I might have. I found out that what Derek had done was illegal in many places, but proving it and getting the images removed from the internet would be incredibly difficult and expensive. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't concentrate on anything, except the knowledge that thousands of strangers had seen these humiliating images of me. Every time I closed my eyes, I imagined people I knew finding the photos, recognizing my face, and believing that I'd post for them willingly. By Saturday morning, I knew I had to tell someone. The weight of keeping this secret was crushing me, and I needed help figuring out what to do. I decided to tell my parents. They had always been supportive and protective, and I knew they would help me through this nightmare. I drove to their house for our usual Sunday family dinner, but I couldn't wait until Sunday. I needed their support and guidance immediately. When I arrived, they could tell something was seriously wrong. My mom took one look at my face and immediately started asking what had happened. I sat them down in the living room and tried to explain the situation as clearly as I could without going into all the graphic details. I told them about Derek, about the photo session, and about what he had done with the images afterward. My mom's face went white with horror, and my dad's expression grew darker and more furious with every word I spoke. "We need to call the police," my dad said immediately. "What this person did to you is criminal." We spent the rest of the day researching options and making phone calls. My parents were incredible, surrounding me with love and support while also taking practical steps to help me deal with the situation. My mom held me while I cried, and my dad made calls to lawyers and law enforcement agencies to understand what could be done. But as we learned more about the legal process, it became clear that getting justice would be incredibly difficult. The photos had been posted on multiple websites, many of them hosted in countries where the laws were different or enforcement was limited. Even if we could get some of the images removed, they had likely been downloaded and shared countless times. The emotional toll was devastating. I couldn't go to work because I was convinced that everyone had seen the photos and was judging me. I couldn't sleep because every time I closed my eyes, I imagined strangers looking at those manipulated images of my body. I felt violated in a way that I had never experienced before. Like my privacy and dignity had been completely stripped away. My parents insisted I stay with them while we figured out how to move forward. They created a protective bubble around me, screening my phone calls and emails, helping me navigate the legal system, and providing the emotional support I needed to survive each day. It took weeks for me to feel strong enough to leave their house for more than essential errands. The first time I went back to work, I was terrified that everyone would know what had happened to me. Every conversation felt loaded with hidden meaning. Every glance from a coworker made me wonder if they had seen the photos. The legal process was slow and frustrating. We filed police reports and consulted with lawyers, but the reality was that prosecuting this kind of crime across multiple jurisdictions and online platforms was extremely complex and expensive. Some of the websites did remove the images after receiving legal notices, but others ignored our requests or demanded payment to take them down. The psychological impact was something I hadn't anticipated. I started having panic attacks whenever I saw cameras or when people took photos in my presence. I couldn't bear to look at myself in mirrors because all I could see was how vulnerable and exposed I had been. The trust I had placed in Derek and the way he had weaponized that trust against me made me question my judgment about everyone in my life. I started seeing a therapist who specialized in helping victims of image-based abuse. She helped me understand that what had happened to me was not my fault, that I had been the victim of a calculated and malicious crime. She taught me coping strategies for dealing with the anxiety and depression that had consumed my life since the photos were posted online. Slowly, very slowly, I began to rebuild my sense of self. The process was not linear. There were days when I felt strong and determined to move forward, and other days when the weight of what had happened felt unbearable. But with the support of my family, my therapist, and eventually a support group for other survivors of similar crimes, I started to reclaim my life. I learned that Derek had done this to other women as well. Through online forums and support groups, I connected with 3 other women who had similar experiences with him. He had used the same approach each time, building trust through flirtation and compliments, suggesting photo sessions, and then manipulating the images in violating ways before posting them online. This knowledge was both devastating and empowering. It was horrible to learn that other women had suffered the same violation, but it also proved that this was not about me personally. Derek was a predator who systematically targeted and abused women. Understanding this helped me separate my own self-worth from what he had done to me. We decided to band together and pursue legal action as a group. Having multiple victims with similar stories made our case much stronger, and we were able to find a lawyer who specialized in these types of crimes and was willing to work with us on a contingency basis. The legal process took almost a year, but eventually Derek was charged with multiple felonies related to image-based abuse and harassment. The trial was difficult because I had to testify about the details of what happened but I felt empowered by the opportunity to hold him accountable for his actions. During the trial, we learned more about the scope of Derek's activities. He had been running multiple websites where he posted manipulated images of women, often accompanied by their personal information, including names, social media profiles, and sometimes even contact information. He'd been making money from advertising on these websites, literally profiting from the violation and humiliation of his victims. The prosecutor called it one of the most extensive cases of image-based abuse they had ever seen. Derek had victimized dozens of women over several years, always using the same pattern of building trust before violating it in the most devastating way possible. When the verdict was read and Derek was found guilty on all charges, I felt a mixture of relief and exhaustion. Justice had been served, but it couldn't undo the damage that had been done. The images might still be out there somewhere, and the trauma of what I had experienced would always be part of my story. Derek was sentenced to 3 years in prison and ordered to pay restitution to all of his victims. More importantly, he was required to use his technical skills to help locate and remove as many of the manipulated images as possible from the internet. It wasn't a perfect solution, but it felt like meaningful accountability. The experience changed me in ways both devastating and profound. I lost a certain innocence about trust and vulnerability that I will never get back. But I also discovered reserves of strength and resilience that I didn't know I possessed. I learned the importance of speaking up about abuse and supporting other survivors who are going through similar experiences. I eventually returned to work and rebuilt my social life, though it took time to feel comfortable dating or forming new relationships. The therapy helped enormously, and I learned to separate what Derek did to me from my own worth and value as a person. I also became an advocate for stronger laws around image-based abuse. I testified before state legislators about the need for better legal protections for victims and more severe penalties for perpetrators. The laws have improved significantly in recent years, but there's still work to be done to protect people from this type of violation. Looking back now, 6 months after everything started, I can see how far I've come. The panic attacks are rare now, and I've learned to manage the anxiety that sometimes surfaces when I encounter triggers related to photography or online harassment. I've built new relationships based on genuine trust and respect, and I've learned to recognize red flags that might indicate someone has predatory intentions. The support of my family was absolutely crucial throughout this entire ordeal. My parents never made me feel ashamed or blamed me for what happened. They stood by me through every difficult moment, from that first horrifying discovery to the long legal process to the gradual healing that followed. I want other women to know that if something like this happens to you, it is not your fault. The person who violates your trust and exploits your images is the only one responsible for their criminal behavior. You deserve support, you deserve justice, and you deserve to heal and move forward with your life. I also want people to understand that image-based abuse is a serious crime with real victims and devastating consequences. It's not harmless fun or artistic expression. It's a form of assault that can destroy lives, relationships, and mental health. We need to take it seriously as a society and create better systems for prevention, prosecution, and support for survivors. If you're someone who's been approached for photo sessions or other situations that might put you at risk, trust your instincts. If something feels off or too good to be true, it probably is. Don't be afraid to ask questions, set boundaries, or walk away if you feel uncomfortable. And if you're someone who has experienced image-based abuse or any other form of harassment, please know that you're not alone. There are resources available to help you, legal options to pursue justice, and communities of survivors who understand what you're going through. My story doesn't have a fairy tale ending, but it has something better. It has truth, resilience, and the knowledge that justice is possible even when the system is imperfect. I survived something that felt unsurvivable, and I found ways to use my experience to help protect other women from going through the same thing. Derek thought he could use technology to violate and control me, but ultimately I used my voice and the legal system to hold him accountable. That feels like the kind of ending that matters most, not because it erases what happened, but because it transforms the experience into something that can create positive change for others. 6 months ago, I thought my life was ruined by one manipulated photograph. Today, I know that no one else gets to define my story or determine my worth. I define those things for myself, and I choose to define them with strength, compassion, and hope for a future where fewer women have to experience what I went through. That's my story. It's not the love story I thought I was living when this all started, but it's become something more important. It's a story about survival, justice, and the power of speaking truth, even when it's difficult and painful to do so.